What else is coming next? So a couple things to think about. First of all, anytime you get a null reference exception, 100% of the time it is a programming error. There are no exceptions. If you get a null reference exception, it is a programming error. So what can we as the C# team start to do to reduce the likelihood that you're going to write this exception? Now the obvious answer is, hey, let's go ahead and say, let's declare types as being non-nullable. What if we declare the type as being non-nullable? Well, that's interesting, but it turns out we want to default things to be non-nullable rather than default things to be nullable. So if we could go back in time, we might change the language. So by default, it is non-nullable, and you have explicitly say that it's nullable. So what if we could go ahead and have string question mark to say this is nullable, but if we're doing that, we're still stuck with the default, which is it is nullable. And so we're starting to think through in the language team, hey, how do we change it so that by default it is non-nullable and you explicitly opt in to be nullable? Well, it turns out that that's really hard because a bunch of us have written some code before, and to go ahead and change the default is not necessarily attractive. So we're thinking through the complexities of what that involves. And the second part of what makes that difficult is we can't actually determine without doubt that this has been set or has been checked for nullability. And so we can become somewhat close, but there's things that can happen that we can't control that it would allow a type to not actually be set and we can't verify it. And so there's a whole bunch of semantics and logic that needs to go into, is this a warning? How do we support backwards compatibility? But at the end of the day, what if we could do a compiler switch maybe that said on this class, or this method, or this assembly, we default null, we default the type to be non-nullable, and we put a question mark in string, that means it's nullable. But again, that's opposite of what we did before. So this is a fairly complex operation. Another thing that's seriously considered for C# 8 is record types. So this is something that was fairly popular, and we're looking seriously. It actually existed in an early prototype form in C# 6. Never made it, C# 6. It never quite made it into the language, but we're looking pretty hard again at the ability to support what's called a record type. You can go back and look at that. Questions, comments, concerns? Yes?
Is there anything in the language that will be more oriented towards the cloud? Like, I don't know, I don't know Go, but I understand Go language has some constructs that makes it easier for
there's nothing being considered right now that is exclusive to cloud or not cloud. And I would be interested in discussing the details of that, but there's nothing there right now. Yes?
First class, async, enumerable, and for each async. I know, I mean, I was at Build, so they flashed it for about 2 seconds, but.
Yeah, so this has been around for a long time as a request, and it is available already in the library, so if you use TPL and stuff like that, you can have a library form, we don't have a language form. And so yeah, it is being seriously considered. I'm not sure if it'll see the light of day. I think it will eventually, but I'm not sure if we'll see it. I doubt we'll see it in C point. We won't see it in 7.x. I seriously doubt, but it's certainly possible for it. Again, that's to be decided.
I know.
Yes?
Are you thinking of having anything to help with parallel programming?
So that's the same question that this gentleman asked, the ability to do things like for each, async, and stuff like that. So it is being considered for C# 8. By the way, when you say you, I'm not actually on the language team. I'm obviously very close to what they do, but I'm not actually writing the language itself, just so we're clear. I don't work for Microsoft, they wouldn't have me. Just kidding. I think, yeah, we've had that discussion. So, huh?
Maybe you wouldn't have that.
Yeah, no, I was. It turns out it's not actually. It's a mutual feeling, I'm sure.
Any chance of removing the break from switch statement?
No. So Microsoft is going to be very, very, very unlikely to do something that breaks the language.
No, but removing a break doesn't.
Yeah, it's going to change. It's going to change the semantics of the language. It's unlikely to happen. And if it was going to happen, this would be the time to do it, right? When we do the switch statement, and we did. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you guys, I got contact information somewhere. If you guys want to. There's a bunch of details about tuples. I do have the code So,
What's the program you're using? Screen, Zoom?
zoom in. And under here, there's something like Essential C#. But just look here, and you'll see that basically every talk or article I write, I'm planning, I haven't written it yet, but I plan in the next 2 weeks to write about 7.x. So what's coming in 7.x? So that'll be in MSTM magazine. So I'll write it now, so it should be in August or July? In June. So it's going to come out in August, so you'll see that come out. Thanks very much. If you need my contact information. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It's like, takes away all the ceremony. I think it's like class. And it also provides like high critical, two-straight, all that stuff. So you basically write.
We upgrade to 7.x when it comes out.
What's that?
Will that be to upgrade to 7.x?
Languages, just
Right now, we're doing a Visual Studio preview.
Right on that main line.
It's not available.
So that just come with
start naming types. So string this.
Yes, right now, that's the plan, but we are working, so the team is working hard to make this available in a good package, but I don't think it's going to work at 15.
Amazing feature.
It's not there yet. Sorry. 17. It's